Hey everyone, I'm Russ Still. Welcome back to Sun and Fun Live. I'm Russ Still, as I said.
And I'm Nate Tennant. It's so good to have you guys with us today.
It's great, and Nate and I had an excellent adventure this morning. For those of you who couldn't make it to Sun and Fun, we went out and did some more film for you, and we're going to go through and give you a virtual tour of how Sun and Fun was looking a little bit earlier this morning. So let's start rolling some video, and let's take a look at how she looked. We started out our walk heading out towards from Hangar C where we are. We went by a pilot mall run by our friend Neil Glazer, and this is on our way out to the flight line. So Neil has he's known for a pilot mall known as an online pilot store, but he's got a physical location right here in Sun and Fun and had it here for years. So we're going to head on out to the flight line. There's a nice, great shot of my back. Heading out towards where the action
is.
Your man
cave with, yeah?
A lot of stuff for the man cave, exactly. I saw a few items I would bring home. I don't think the wife would like them.
A lot of these famous airplanes out here, especially the World War II birds, have really famous either pinup girls or nose paintings that have made them who they are, and you can get all those here.
Yep, that's right. A lot of that old artwork ended up on the nose of World War II aircraft. We've got a view of some. This is the RV section. We had a lot of airplanes that have flown in for the air show. This is a view of the RVs. Lots of airplanes this year. Great weather today.
Absolutely stunning. It's just so cool if you're an airplane owner, or if you've never been to one of these big fly-ins before. If you own an airplane, it's cool to be able to fly it in, and then you park it, as you can see, next to all those V-tail Bonanzas, with a bunch of people that have the same airplane. So you've already got built-in friends and built-in people to talk to, and kind of a starter piece. And then on the flip side of that, you also have these super rare, unique, cool airplanes like this, where you know that you're going to be belle of the ball because you have something totally unique. I think here we're looking at one of the Phenom 300s. These are super cool airplanes. One of the biggest single pilot jets that you can possibly fly right now, only other than the PC-24, the new Pilatus jet. Here we're looking over at looks like a Piper Meridian. Those are one of the bigger, better Pipers that are out there. And this is Piper's booth. Piper always shows up big time for all of these air shows. That's a Seminole that I think many of you flight students, especially getting your multi-engine, have probably been in either that or a Seneca or maybe
that was an L3 airplane too, and there are friends right next door to us here.
Right next to us here at Hangar C. These pusher airplanes are also super fun. These with the big canard up front.
This is a Velocity.
Oh, nice. They say that they can't be stalled, but hold my beer. I think I can take care of this. Just kidding.
You could do something wrong with it.
Yeah, right. No, absolutely. I think you can probably get yourself in trouble if you needed to. But super safe airplane. They say that the nose is going to stall before the wings, and so the nose would actually come down and help you out.
All right, the gyrocopter section. This is something that's always fascinated me since I was a kid. I remember ordering instructions on how to build a Benson gyrocopter back in the 60s. Found out I couldn't afford the engine for it, but gyrocopters are a lot of fun. And what they are now is really sophisticated aircraft. I mean, you can look at the panel on this thing, the interior. These are nicely constructed, great aircraft to fly. And maybe, one day I can add that gyrocopter rating.
Yeah,
do some of that.
A lot of these, here we go over to the Carbon Cubs. These things are super cool. If you guys have ever seen the takeoff or landing competitions, go look some up online because they are super cool. If you come to Sun and Fun, they were doing some demonstrations, and I think we'll see a little bit of it today.
Big Tundra tires there.
These things have about a 40 foot, that's 40 foot takeoff roll, and they can pretty much climb straight up. Another cool thing about this one is a glass panel on the inside there, and you don't see that very often in some of these Cubs. I likened it to glamping earlier. It's like
and that is
it's like glamour camping. You've got just the bare frames of a really cool retro aircraft with all the avionics and technology you could ever want in any kind of aircraft, much less a single engine.
Take some glass into a backcountry strip somewhere.
Right. Here we're moving on to, this is Matt Chaplin's 300 Extra. He's a super famous aerobatic pilot. He's a Boeing 737 pilot for American, I believe. And this is his plane here. These extras are super cool. If you've ever seen an air show, most of the aerobatics done, I mean, you're guaranteed to see an extra. One fun fact about it, it's a German aircraft. It's actually Extra Flugensball. Pardon my German.
He practiced that.
Pardon my German.
Still don't know if you got it right.
I did. No idea if that's correct. I'm sure you can comment and let me know. But here's a look at the inside of his cockpit there. There's a camera up front just in case he wants to terrify any passengers that decided to ride with him that day. I'm sure he could probably knock you out with some G-force as he takes those 10 to 12 G turns that they come around. But he did a performance yesterday. I'm sure he'll probably do another performance today, and I'm really looking forward to it. Here's another booth. This is the Bose tent, just right around the corner here. Coming to these air shows is a really cool way to shop for products. Let's say you're a student pilot and you're looking at buying a new headset or making a big purchase like that. You're going to spend somewhere, in the high hundreds to even thousands for a headset. So this is a really good place to come if you're looking to make a purchase like that, because you can try everything on, you can talk to the representatives, you can talk to the people that are experts. In this tent, they're actually pumping ambient noise in through the speakers so that when you try on the headsets, you can actually get a feel for what it would be like in the cockpit. And there's people there to let you know. And they've got the new ones there that are earbuds that are pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Moving on over here to the beachcraft beachcraft tent. Yep. The Textron tent, they always show up in force too. It's kind of Piper and Textron. Usually all these flight schools, you're going to see Cessnas and Pipers, and Textron owns Hawker, Beechcraft, and Cessna. And after you've graduated from your Seminole or Seneca training, you might move on to a more high-powered multi-engine aircraft. And a lot of the first steps that people take into a more powerful multi-engine aircraft is in one of these, like a Baron. That's two 300 horsepower engines. This one's brand new. A lot of the ones you'll see are older airplanes. So it's really cool to see something brand new like this, and it's got that airplane, that new airplane smell.
Yeah, and all glass too.
Absolutely, it's got that fresh G1000 up there. I'm sure it's got the GFC 700 autopilot. Mm-hmm. Everything's brand new on them. They're just super cool aircraft, and that's why more and more people are using them, even for 135 operations, taking small trips with a smaller family. They got a good payload, good long range, and up front, everyone sees that little rectangle. That's for de-ice. So these things have boots all along the wings, all along the tail. You can fly into ice, no problem. It's a super cool airplane, especially something that you can afford if you buy an older model. And the older models are really inexpensive now. You can practically buy one for what you'd pay for an older 182. Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to planes that people own a lot, Moonies. That's another airplane that you don't see a lot of new Moonies out there. Mm-hmm. People that like Mooney tend to love Mooney, and it's a really cool airplane.
Except for the backwards tail.
Yeah. They got that part wrong and never seemed to fix it. The Epics here, so another cool thing about these air shows is that rather than dealing with the actual airplane itself, a lot of people will set up a fuselage with the cockpit in there, and then you can climb inside and really mess with everything, because a lot of the airplanes that actually have the actual airplane on the lot, they don't want you to go in and mess with things, because they're usually owned by someone. And so these will actually let you go inside, and you can turn the knobs and play. There was a G3000 in that one, so you can play with all the knobs, and it's
kind of like the Pilatus we looked into yesterday. It was already owned by somebody, so we had to be very delicate with it.
Right, and so we've got the drone section over here. Mm-hmm. As many of you know, we have a remote pilot course at Gold Seal as well. Yep. And drones are not to be left out. They're at all these air shows too. They obviously this is an airplane show for the most part, but the drone section over here never ceases to amaze, because they've got the racing drones out there. And remember, if you wanted to race drones, you do have to have a commercial certificate for that, because you are potentially making money if you're winning a tournament or something like that. And so you would need your remote pilot certificate, which Gold Seal has a great program for you guys to check out as well at onlinegroundschool.com.
Yeah, it's UAVgroundschool.com for the remote pilot program. If you already have a Part 61 certificate, if you're already a private pilot, commercial pilot, FAA's provided a shortcut for you. You can go to FAAsafety.gov, take ALC 451. Takes about 2 hours to go through it. You take a test online, and bam, you got a new certificate on your way from the FAA.
Awesome, guys. And we're going to take just a quick break here to give you a look at some our partners here at SAFE, and we'll be right back with some more walk around at Sun and Fun.
Pass your written test and your check ride with Gold Seal, the Internet's #1 ground school. Take a free test drive today and see how much fun learning to fly can be at onlinegroundschool.com.
Hey guys, welcome back. we took a quick break there so we could talk about our sponsors, and well, not our sponsors, but our partners here.
Our friends.
And our friends, yeah, absolutely. We're sharing our booth over here in Hangar C. We've got our friends Safe on this side, and we're super happy to have them. We've had lots of people coming by for interviews today, and it's been awesome. Had the president of AOPA was here. We had Patty Wagstaff here. Tomorrow we got ForeFlight, Rob Machado. We've got a handful of really great people stopping by.
Yeah, and let's mention that tomorrow we have an exclusive first look at ForeFlight 10. ForeFlight's going to come over here. We're going to hook up the iPad. We're going to broadcast it out. You'll get your very first view of ForeFlight 10. So we're looking forward to that tomorrow morning. Not sure about the time yet, but we'll get that out to you tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's go back to the videos of us walking around today and some of the cool airplanes that we got to see. All right, coming back over, this is a 727 that they have actually in the middle of the airfield over there by the museum at the entrance to Sun and Fun. So you walk past it as you walk in through the main gates. This one started its life in 1982, I believe. Used to fly for Canada Air, and then somewhere in the 90s got switched over to FedEx for cargo. Now they've got it set up here like a museum almost, and you can walk inside. Another reason I wanted to do this was try to convince Russ here to relocate the Gold Seal offices to a
fuselage.
Decommissioned 737. I'm thinking we could go 737, maybe 787.
Maybe L1011 and get some width in here.
Probably going to be a while before we see a decommissioned 787 anyway.
I think so.
But it's all set up like an old airliner. It's super cool. It reminds you of the good old days where a 6'5" guy like me could actually sit down and not hug my knees or sit behind or sit in between two smelly people or something like that.
Yeah, you actually could have some seating and some leg room. Back in the old days.
Yeah, it was back when you could you got a meal on every flight. They handed you cigarettes at the door.
Yeah, and
maybe some things can stay old, I guess. But the meal and leg room, I'll take that back. This one's super cool. I'm going to turn around here and show you the cockpit here in just a second. This one they've kind of set up as an office space, so it was nice to have air conditioning in one of these 727s. Up front, you can see this plane was operated by 3 pilots. So you have the pilot and the co-pilot over there, and if you could see the seat over there on the right side of your screen, that's the flight engineer. So that was back when you needed a 3-pilot crew.
Yeah, and they were all like that back then. I mean, they were all, you had a flight engineer, you had a first officer, and you had a captain. So
absolutely. Some of the old planes, they even had the flight engineer was the one who adjusted the power. So you had the pilot flying the airplane, but then the flight engineer, you'd call back on the radio as to how much power you wanted or not. So you imagine flying an airplane, you've got no control over the power settings. Somebody else does. You talk about crew resource management. You had a whole new level of CRM back there.
Yes.
And it's such a cool heyday to go through. These 727s, you don't see them very much anymore. The only real 3-engine jets that you see now are typically cargo. You see the was it the DC-11, I believe, or MD-11? That's what I'm thinking. And DC-10. Those are the big 3-engine jets that you see these days, and you usually only see them for cargo. So it's really cool to see an old airliner that's still got its seats and stuff.
And that's what's nice about Sun and Fun is you can go back and see these airplanes that you normally can't even see anymore. It's kind of like this big giant museum that you can walk through with your friends and just experience aviation. So we're really happy that we had time to shoot this video for you.
Absolutely. And this is heading over to the light sport area. The light sport airplanes have kind of exploded.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Boom,
if you guys
boom,
just
boom.
heard
the
explosions
the
going outside at the air
outside.
show. I couldn't have timed that any more perfect. And it's such a cool environment to be in. This is a really close-knit group. It's a little bit cheaper than having a standard fixed-wing aircraft. They're and they're super unique. You can see one right here. That's a light sport with a radial engine. And so it's about to take off behind our square down there.
We've been wondering about that. Where do you get a small enough radial engine to make the weight specs for a light sport aircraft?
Yeah,
Obviously, somebody's done it.
So much of this stuff is experimental, and it's new, it's exciting. People are really getting into it, and it's relatively affordable to get into. And just cool things about these air shows. Being able to fly your airplane into an air show after you've just thrown your tent in the back, with a lawn chair, maybe a lunch, and a cooler, and you can bring it all down here and camp under your wing next to a lot of people that have the same airplanes as you do. Maybe they've gone to the same air shows. It's a real camaraderie feel here. So after you fly and you've known these people for however many years, there's all ages at this point. You see people 2 years old to 92 years old.
Yeah, and people you've met on the internet that you've never actually met face to face. You come and meet up with them here. There's been a huge camping contingent here at this year's Sun and Fun. There's always a lot of people, but there's tents all over the place. We got another nice explosion.
It's just such a cool community. And then onto the Warbirds a little bit. You don't usually see World War I aircraft. And so showing you a World War I aircraft like this is just so cool. And
that's Eddie Rickenbacker's hat in the Ring Squadron. Just recognize the emblem.
It just takes you back, man. If you look at the inside of these cockpits, you've got the kind of handlebar yoke there. You got your rudder pedals down.
The rudder pedals on a lot of them was just a bar, a piece of wood you pushed left and right. And a lot of these engines didn't even have a throttle. You had a blip switch where you just grounded out the mags. And to slow the airplane down, you'd hear them kill the engine, kill the engine, kill the engine. And when it cranked up, it was full blast, full power. So people were holding it back on the wings before it was ready to roll. So a different world there. And yes, I believe that is a Lewis gun. We were talking about the machine guns earlier.
Yeah, so if you got to shoot somebody down, you have to fly and then reach outside the airplane and pull the trigger should you need to. Imagine trying to reload that thing while someone's shooting back at you.
Yeah, take one of those big drums off and try to swap it out.
And fly the airplane.
There's
just wild.
Virtually no. I mean, there may be a few World War II aircraft, World War I aircraft still flying. Virtually all of them now are reproductions. They used to use Rotax engines, and because of that, they did smaller scales of them. But now they've got some better engines, more like what they had in World War I. So they're making a lot of full-scale reproductions now.
All right, now we're looking over at the Kodiak booth and the Nikon tent where the announcers announcing the air show.
And my favorite place,
Warbird Country, which I would argue that Russ knows just about as much as any curator of a Warbird museum. This guy's spent years reading books and talking to authors and writing some of his own pieces about these really, really, really cool Warbirds.
Well, World War II piston engine aviation was the pinnacle of piston engines. After that, we transitioned to jet power, so we no longer, we do have some now, but generally World War II airplanes that have been rebuilt for racing. But these things were 14, 16, some of them 2,000 horsepower. So imagine the kind of torque and P factor and left turning tendencies to deal with one of these things. Most of them were tail draggers. This is the Bearcat, which was introduced right at the end of World War II.
Not to mention, think about a prop that big that you can't even really land it. You'd have to do a 3-point landing
to keep
in a
the tail
wheel.
Yeah.
Because if you tried to do a 2-wheel landing, you would have a prop strike every time.
Yeah, and the P-51s typically do wheel landings. But onto the trainers, this is a T-28 Trojan. These were used in the 50s and into the early 60s by all three branches of the military. This was the advanced trainer, beautiful airplane. In World War II, they were using the T-6s, and I think we saw some of them earlier, and that's what the Aeroshell team flies. There's the tail end of a B-17. This is the Memphis Belle, and not the real one that's up, was rebuilt back in the 80s up in Tennessee, but this is the one from the movie The Memphis Belle. So we've got a good look at this one. That tail end had a pair of stingers on it, a 50 cal machine guns, 50 caliber. If you've never seen one, it's about that big around, and will chew you up like a chainsaw.
Yeah, a lot of these airplanes, when they refurbish them, one of those C-47s we saw the other day had 29 bullet holes in the bottom. And a lot of these old airplanes, they just have that, and since a lot of them are non-pressurized, because back in the day, imagine flying 20,000 feet with an oxygen mask, and just, they say that used to, if you had to pee in your helmet or something like that, it would just turn to ice, and so you could put it over on the side.
We actually got inside the Memphis Belle, again the movie version, so we're going to show you an inside peek at how the B-17 looks like. This is a B-17G model. That image you just saw, video you just saw before, was me walking across through the bomb bay, and they were gracious enough to let us get up on the flight deck and get a good view of this thing. 4 engines, view of P-51s out off to our right side. There's the throttle quadrant.
You're going to need a bigger hand.
A couple of hands. So I was very glad to be able to get a seat up there and for a few minutes and see what the view looks like from the cockpit, from the left seat of a B-17G. beautiful airplane. So I guess that's where Matthew Modine, he played the captain in the movie, so I got to sit in his seat for whatever that's worth.
Oh man, look at the ammo bays there too.
Yeah, this is the ball turret. This is the lower gunner. Again, 250 cals. They had to have a small guy sit in here. It opens on the back. We're looking kind of where the back door is right there. But when he's sitting in there, he's got his knees up like this, and he's got very little movement. It's an electric control to rotate the turret,
so
and he was protecting the bottom of the airplane.
He can't climb through the center, can he?
That's right.
You get in, and when you're in, that's where you're going to be until the plane lands
because
again.
They have to rotate the turret back over so that the hatch opens up on the inside.
That is not for the claustrophobic.
Yeah, nice view, some P-51D models. We've got several of those here, as we talked about yesterday. Lee Lauterbach, Stallion 51, has his nice travel trailer set up as a big display area over there on the Warbirds flight line. Now this is I believe we're looking at a P-40. I believe this is an N model. The well known to most people is the Flying Tigers, which were flown out of China. In fact, if you see the emblem on the wing, that's the Chinese Air Force. We're flown by the AVG, American Volunteer Group. A friend of mine flew P-40s back in World War II. His name was Joel Paris. I lost him, and we lost him about 4 years ago. But he flew P-40s in New Guinea. He became an ace in New Guinea in the P-40, primarily the K models, I believe. And then he transitioned to what we're going to see next, which is a P-38 Lightning, and it's a specific airplane that has a story of its own too. Here's the back view of the P-38, twin booms with the superchargers on the tail, single pilot gondola there, twin engine airplane, beautiful. Now this one is actually Glacier Girl, which is pretty famous. This one was recovered in Greenland back in the late 70s, possibly early 80s. Pat Epps and a group of people went up there and spent several years trying to dig this thing out of, I believe, a couple of 100 feet of ice. Pulled it out in pieces, spent years putting it back together, and now it's just an immaculate P-38 and a great example of that kind of airplane. And my friend Joel Paris flew P-38s in the Philippines and ended up with 9 kills. We've got 4 50 cals on the front, and the green one there in the middle is a 20 millimeter cannon. There was no convergence of guns from the wings. It was straight ahead. So if you were on the having one of these things aimed at you, it would tear you up. So we had a great time going through the Warbird section as the rest of Sun and Fun. Thanks for letting us share this virtual tour with you who couldn't be here. Check back with us tomorrow. We've got NORAD. We've got the exclusive view for Flight 10. And remember to come visit groundschool.com, the internet's #1 online ground school program. If you're CFI, CFI's join for free. See ya.
See you later.
Pass your written test and your check ride with Gold Seal, the internet's #1 ground school. Take a free test drive today and see how much fun learning to fly can be at onlinegroundschool.com.